You're listening to the Sisters in Loss podcast, a faith-based grief and loss podcast for Black women, where you will hear stories of miscarriage, infant loss, stillbirth, and infertility to learn there is a testimony in tragedy. You will learn how to heal, gain clarity, find hope and peace, and turn your pain into your purpose after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. McAfee. Welcome to episode 71 of the Sisters in Loss podcast. Have you ever questioned God why? Did you feel like God let you down after your loss? In today's episode, we have Geneen Fitchett, who shares her stillbirth story of daughter Madison and how to trust God even when you don't understand why. Geneen is an angel mom, college biology professor, daughter, friend, and child of God. She became a mother on December 4th, 2016 to a beautiful baby girl, Madison Michelle Jones, at the age of 31. She had a perfect pregnancy and created a perfect home for Madison. Unexpectedly, when she went to wake up her little girl from a nap in her swing so peacefully on January 11th, 2017, she was unresponsive. In this episode, Geneen takes us back to that day and how she felt when she left her hospital without her baby girl. She shares how to trust God even when you don't understand why. And I know this episode is for each and every one of you listening because we have all felt this way on our grief journeys. Here is Geneen Fitchett. Thank you so much, Geneen, for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
So I'd like to start out by you sharing with the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Again, my name is Geneen. I'm a biology professor here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I teach biology and anatomy. Science is like a passion of mine. I don't know where that came from, but I enjoy being a college educator. Emphasis on college educator. So that's what I do right now. I serve on a lot of committees here in Charlotte, or organizations, should I say, and do community service and things like that. Other than that, I'm just a professor, and I'm from Philadelphia. That's really about me and what I do.
Awesome. No, it's awesome. No, we both share a love for science, so I understand. So take us back. Take us back on your journey to motherhood and tell us about your loss story.
Okay. So I found out I was pregnant around March 2016, which was very shocking. Because we weren't planning to have children or anything, we weren't married or anything like that. We did just talk about becoming pregnant because I had never been pregnant before. So I used to kind of think in some ways like maybe I couldn't have children, or I would have to go through kind of a different procedure maybe to get pregnant. And we actually did go to a fertility doctor just to make sure that we're both were okay, because we knew that in the future we wanted kids, and we both came back like 100% perfectly fine. So we just thought we'll wait, and when we're ready, to begin that process, we will. But in March, I found out that I was pregnant. So when I found out I was pregnant, it was a complete shock. However, once I got over the shock, I was completely happy. And I'm a planner, so I kind of went into planning mode. I signed up for probably every birthing class you can ever think of. I started, getting things together, insurance-wise, all of the things that I guess a first-time mother does or think that she needs to do, I guess you could say. So Madison was due November 22nd. However, she didn't come until December 4th. And they told me because it was my first child, like they couldn't induce me or anything like that. So I would have to wait at least like 2 weeks out of my due date. So we went to the hospital December 3rd. And when we got to the hospital, I really wasn't having contractions or anything like that. So they basically kind of forced the contractions and things like that. And then around 1 something that morning, she came. So I did have a C-section. She was perfectly healthy. She was 8.9 pounds. She came out. She was beautiful. Everything went well. I think like the only thing that was probably happening, she wasn't latching on, probably like she was supposed to, because I wanted to fully breastfeed. And then eventually she started latching on in the hospital, and we came home and we kind of started being parents. So everything was going smooth. I, had created this perfect nursery for her that I envisioned. And then she started to kind of, what I say is, regress in her milk. So she was taking down 4 ounces. And then that kind of started to regress. So I made an appointment with the doctors. This was right after her 1 month check-in, I believe it was. We had went when we first came from the hospital. So when I took her there, I think like maybe a couple of days later, I had just called telling them that she was vomiting a lot and things like that. So they told me it may be acid reflux. So they were like, try to add some rice to her milk and things like that. And I'm like, it's kind of early for that, but I'm going to listen to the doctor and see how this goes. I still felt like she wasn't taking as much, but it was more. And then one night she just kind of seemed like out of it. So we went to the emergency room and they basically kind of checked her out, said that she was perfectly fine. So we came home, everything was fine. Everything started to kind of get a little bit, I guess you could say, better. She was taking down her milk. Still not as much as she was doing before, but she was taking down her milk. So then January 11th, this day, I'll never forget, it was normal. We woke up. I went to grab her a bottle. I was pumping milk like really good at that time because I was worried that maybe I wouldn't be able to pump enough when she was ready to go to daycare. And I remember getting her bottle out the refrigerator, and I pulled a bag out the freezer just to put out so she could have for later. And I took a picture of the milk. I'll never forget, because I had like 55 bags of milk, and I just was so happy that I had all this milk. And then I went into the room with her. I fed her. She kind of seemed grumpy that day, so she went down for a nap. And then later on that day, her father's sister came over, and she came over, and Madison was like crying and things like that. And she was holding Madison. Madison was really grumpy. She didn't really want the bottle. And then she had to leave to pick up her daughter. So I remember looking at the time, because she picks up her daughter around 6 o'clock. So it was probably about 5:45, 5:50 or something like that. And then as soon as she left, I had kind of got Madison to settle down, and she went to sleep. And I took a picture of Madison and sent it to her and said, finally, your niece went to sleep. And she sent me back like she's going to come back over there later, if she can, and things like that. So I got on the phone with a good friend from college, and we were just talking. And the doctors had prescribed Madison some acid reflux medicine and told me to give it to her, in the morning and at night. So I said that I would wake her up like around 7:30, 8 o'clock to give her the medicine after she had laid down. So I'm on the phone with a friend, and I just went over to kind of get ready to get her up because I was going to give her medicine. And then I noticed that she just was kind of limp and not moving. So I'm saying to my friend, like something's going on. So I pick her up, and then I'm just screaming that she's not breathing. So right before that happened, her father had left out to go to the gym. So I'm on the phone with my good friend from college, and I'm telling her like she's not breathing, and I'm screaming, I don't know what to do. So she's like screaming for me to call 911. So I call 911, and I'm assuming at that time she must have called Madison's father, because he just goes to the gym here in the complex. So I'm screaming, I'm calling 911, I'm telling them what's going on. Now, backtrack to where I took all of the birthing classes. So you take all these birthing classes, and they tell you how to do CPR. They tell you how to do all these things. But in that moment, you kind of forget those things, I felt like, because I was in such a panic. But when the lady on the 911 operator was explaining to me to do, it kind of all came back. So I began giving her CPR, and I could see like some white fluid come out of her mouth, but she still wasn't breathing. And then I see the ambulance get there, and all these men come in, all men at the time. I think one woman, they come in, and I could kind of move me out the way. They start hooking her up with things, kind of pumping on her little chest. And I just dropped to my knees and just start praying. And I don't even know, I just was begging God, like, please let her be okay. Please let her be okay. And I kind of felt in my heart, I'm like, God's not going to take my baby. Like, God's not going to take my baby. So I kind of felt that a little bit. But then I heard one of the ambulance says, I found a pulse. But the one woman who was with them, I kind of looked at her and she gave a look to the ambulance as to say, like, I don't hear what you hear. Like, I don't hear anything. So I'm just screaming. Her father's screaming. They take her out. They put her into the ambulance and they wouldn't let us get into the ambulance. So I remember getting in the car with the officer and us following the ambulance and him saying to me, well, me looking at him and saying, you know, is she going to be okay? And he just looked at me and said, we're going to try everything that we can to make sure that she's okay. So I'm panicking. I don't have any family here in Charlotte. We do have her aunt that was here. But as far as my family and friends, they're not here. They're Virginia, Philadelphia, Atlanta, things like that. So I'm calling like my best friend, calling. No one's answering the phone. I called my mom. You know, she didn't answer, so I called my nephew to get in touch with my mom. And I just remember just kind of having this feeling like, I don't think that she's going to be okay. And I wanted to believe that she was, but I just felt like I kept picturing that ambulance woman's face when he said he had a pulse, and her face didn't give confirmation to that. So we get to the hospital. They allow me into the room. There's a team of doctors. And at that moment, you just feel like everything's moving in slow motion. And they're just working on her. And they're surrounding her. And they really won't let me, like, see her. So we're, like, off to the side. And then I remember a pastor coming in. This woman pastor they sent in. And she told me, well, I'm here just to comfort you. And I said, like, is she not okay? Like, why would they send you? And she just said that I'm here to comfort you, you know, just to be here for you and things like that. So then finally, I remember the doctor or kind of everyone just pausing. So all this noise, all these people that you see moving around just kind of stopped. And the doctor just said that she was gone. And I just like remember falling to my knees and just screaming because I'm just like, no way, like this isn't real. I felt like I was in a dream. And then I'm sitting there crying. The pastor is with me. Her father is with me. His sister is there at that time too. And I remember them walking over to me with her and asking me, did I want to hold her? And I asked the doctor, could you please try harder? Just try a little bit longer. And she just gave me this look and was like, it's nothing more I can do. I felt like the medical team there was not really as sympathetic as I thought that they should be. They kind of all just left the room. I never seen them again after that. And I just remember being with the pastor and then getting taken to this little room and the cops come in. So I guess normal procedures for them to question and ask questions of what happened. And once all of that happened, we got in the car. His sister had came, so we were in the car with her and we drove home. But the feeling I felt of leaving that hospital without her was just the worst feeling I probably ever felt in my life. I wanted to turn back and I just wanted to be like, this isn't real. Like, you know, someone try again, someone like wake me up. So we come home and the worst part is to walk into our house and just see all her stuff, like her swing, her playpen, her room, all of those things. And I remember just going into the room, laying down, and just after that, I don't really remember what happened. I think I fell asleep. So I woke up I felt like it was like 3 a.m. because I remember coming into the living room just because I wanted to sit on the couch and my best friend was there. And she just was sitting there and I sat next to her and she just sat there and she didn't say anything. And I needed that at that time just for her not to say anything. And I felt like she handled the moment so perfectly. And I just cried. Like I could just remember just crying and her just sitting there with me, just crying. And we just sat there. And then finally I just was like, I'm going to go back and lay down. So I went and laid down. And when I woke up, the next day, my house was filled with people from Virginia, Atlanta. He's from Virginia, so all his family had got there, and it's like all of these people. And I know I told you about the freezer that morning when I had looked in the freezer. So I went to open the refrigerator to get a drink of water, and I seen all of that milk, and I just lost it. And I just kind of was like, I just need to get rid of everything. So everyone in the house just kind of started getting rid of everything and putting it into her room and closed the door. So I kind of just sat there for a while. I really didn't say much to anybody. No one really said anything. We just sat there. And then finally I came to and I was like, well, what do we do now? So we began planning a funeral, which you never think you're going to do. plan to bury your child. And I just thank God for the support that I had, because I'm a planner. I'm the leader. I'm always wanting to be in control of things, but they took over everything. Like I didn't have to do anything. So we decided to have a funeral. Her father really wanted a funeral. At first, I really didn't. And we came to, everyone that was here, maybe like the day later, we left to go to Virginia to do the funeral in Petersburg, Virginia. So we went to Petersburg, Virginia. We had her funeral on Martin Luther King Day is when we actually had the funeral. And the last time I seen her was in the casket. She looked beautiful. That is the one part I did participate in for the funeral, is that I picked out a dress for her. And just to see her laying there. And she looked so peaceful and so beautiful, but I just felt so broken. I felt so hurt. I feel like the worst thing that happens when parents or anyone loses anyone is once the funeral is over and all the cards and flowers stop coming, you have to come back, just you and the other person, to regular life. And that's kind of what happened. We came back. My house was still set up as if a baby should be there, and I had to learn how to kind of live every moment after that, which was a struggle. So that was just a story of how everything happened.
Wow. So tell us about your healing journey, because like you said, after the funeral was over with, how did you go through the process of grieving and getting back to a life that's different, because you're not the same person as you were before your loss. So how did you get back to a new normal, and how did you begin to heal?
So at first, initially I was so angry with God. Like I was so how, why, would you do this? But it always was so ironic, because I always felt like it was like that's all I wanted, was God. I wanted my parents and my spiritual parent. I wanted my mom. All I wanted was God. So initially, I don't think I was really healing. I just kind of did nothing. And then I never sleep at night. I always remember being up, crying, and I would Google things. So I'm solution driven by nature, and I just feel like there's an answer to everything. And so I was kind of looking for an answer, what do you do next? And I would Google things, and I would just say, how does a grieving parent, or what happens when you lose a baby, or things like that, because they didn't know what happened with her. I think the hardest thing for me with healing was I didn't have a reason why this happened with her. They couldn't even classify her as SIDS, because they said that her sleeping environment was not of a SIDS case. So the autopsy just reads undetermined. So they don't know. So that's really what I was struggling with. Mm-hmm. Did I do something wrong? So I used to just kind of Google things. And then I remember one day laying on the couch and I hashtag infant loss, or I think SIDS or something like that. You popped up. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm going to listen. I never, ever in my life listened to podcasts before, ever. So your podcast popped up and I started listening. So many people I knew from college back home were having kids, and I never had anyone who I knew personally who dealt with a situation like this. So I think around the time that I started listening to your podcast, it was well already in. You had many episodes. So I think every night I would just lay there and just listen to stories, and people didn't really understand why I did that. How was that really healing for me to kind of hear other people grieving stories? I was always crying and things like that, but it helped me. And you don't ever want anyone else to go through this, but to know that you're not alone does give some type of comfort to you. And I never forget, I think her name is Jamila Davis. She shared her story, and our stories were very similar, losing our daughter. And she was having an Angel Moms brunch. And so I went to go find her Instagram, and this is literally 2:30 in the morning. And it kept saying it was sold out. So I'm like, no, I'm going to go anyway. This isn't sold out. I feel like I need to go to this event. So I remember clicking on it, Eventbrite, I think it was, and it was a ticket available. So I bought the ticket, and I said, well, maybe I should buy him a ticket too. So when I went back to buy a ticket, they were sold out. So I was like, well, this guy wants me to go by myself. The event was the next day. I literally woke up 8 o'clock that morning and drove to Atlanta and went to her event. And I think that was...
Wow, this was what, October 2017?
And I drove to that event. And I got up 8 o'clock in the morning. I called my best friend who lives in Atlanta. I'm like, I'm going to come to Atlanta to this Angel Mom brunch. I only have one ticket, so I'm going to just go by myself, and I'll just come see you afterwards. So I got there right around the time it was starting, and I went by myself, but it was just so comforting just to be there. And I think I just kind of felt connected to her because our story was so similar with our daughter. So I had to be there, and it was so comforting just to be there with other women who were sharing their story. There was a woman there who shared her story. I think her daughter was older and was murdered and things like that. But it was just comforting. So I was like, okay, Geneen, this is things you need to do. You need to get into whatever communities this is, and then you need to, I was always like praying and asking God. We were going to church, and every time we went to church, I would hear these stories and things like that. So we kind of used that with helping to kind of get through this. I did go to counseling. I did one-on-one counseling. However, it was something about when I went to a counselor, if they asked me my story and then didn't ask to see a picture of her. I don't know why. It just was because I felt like I didn't know if they didn't like this. I held her for 5 weeks. She started to develop a personality. I had this one last picture of her where she's smiling in the picture. So it wasn't really a good experience with my one-on-one counselor, but what she did do was recommend Kindermore for me here in Charlotte. Okay. And that is an amazing group. It is an amazing organization. So I ended up going to them, and I did group therapy. So 3 couples, including myself, and one lady who was there, and she shared a similar story. But I developed a relationship with those women. We are still friends because it was only for 6 weeks, but I got so much healing every Tuesday from being there, just being able to be around people who I didn't feel awkward on talking about the death of my daughter, or I didn't feel like I had to kind of make sure that they were okay. I think when death happens, sometimes we find ourselves, if we share our story, we want to make other people feel better. Kind of like, oh, well, it's okay. You don't have to cry and things like that. And I just felt like at home there at Kindermore. And on my consultation with them, I knew it was the place I needed to be because after I shared my story with her, she said, do you have a picture of Madison? And I got on my phone, and she looked at almost every picture I had in my phone of her. And I knew, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. So Kindermore did a lot for me. Again, going to church. Someone shared the story of Job with me. And that's kind of the story I went to every time. I just started to feel so angry with God. Like, why? Why are you doing this to me? Why me? Why is this happening to me? And I started to kind of try to get closer with God and change my prayer life too. So those are the things that I use to kind of cope. Finding places where women share my story, or a couple share our story, God, and then counseling. And really, the group counseling helped me more than one-on-one.
Awesome. So definitely check out Kindermore and see if there are some group therapies in your areas for those who are listening, because group therapy definitely plays a role. And I kudos to you for being willing going to a group therapy session, because that can be intimidating, especially with people sharing so openly and almost feeling like you got to one up somebody, but you really don't need to because it's your truth.
It really is. I remember just always saying, I just wish I knew why and what happened to Madison. And a lady in the group, she shared with me how she knows what happened to her son, but it doesn't make her feel any better. And I think when she said that, I kind of lost that stuck area of what happened and why did it happen and why did it happen. And again, these women, we go to lunch, we celebrate birthdays together, and we always say that we're a group of friends who we wish we never met each other, but we're so happy that we have each other.
Yes. Yes.
It's really good.
And it's that's exactly how I feel about this community of sisters. Same exact way. I'm happy that we met, happy that we know this connection. And then I'm happy that I can be vulnerable with someone who really understands, because not everybody understands. And it's the reason why I continue to do this podcast, because every story that I sit and listen to empowers me, and we have a connection because we both know that pain so well. As the weather turns from muggy to crisp, the anticipation of fall and winter and the holiday season is here. We see it in the stores where they have already begun with the Christmas and Thanksgiving preparations and decorations. And for me, like you, the pain of grief tends to surface with great intensity during these milestone events. Birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays are typical events that are associated with our grief journeys. So please do not let the holidays go by without learning how to navigate them properly. Join me on November 13th, November 27th, and December 11th, where I will teach you 3 ways on how to navigate grief during the holidays. In this webinar, we'll learn how to navigate grief during the holidays, how to deal with families and friends during the holidays, because we know how stressful that could be. And then also, how are we going to honor our angels these days? All 3 dates are the same webinar, so you have 3 different days to choose from and sign up for whichever one that you want. If not, you can catch the replay by going to bit.ly/navigating-grief. Go to bit.ly/navigating-grief to sign up. Do not let these holidays pass you by without knowing how to navigate your grief properly. So let's talk about any resources or tools that you use to help you through your loss. Any books that you read? I know you said you listened to the podcast, so I know that was a great resource. So any other things that you use that you can think of?
Again, Kinder Morwood, they have a library there that people donate books. So there was honestly, I didn't read most of the books. A lot of books were given to me when people would send stuff, but I didn't read a lot of the books. I'm going to honestly say my number one resource was prayer, God. I developed a different connection with God than I had before. And in this type of situation, or when you lose someone, I think prayer is so important. And I found myself, I even pray different now. And sometimes I wish I knew how to pray the way I pray now then, when everything was happening, because I really believe since that occurred with Madison, God has really been walking with me. So that's my first resource, honestly. And I think you should lean on whatever spirituality you have, whatever it is that you have, and begin to pray, because it's not something that will ever go away, but it is a feeling that will probably ever leave, but it is something you learn to deal with, and you get better at dealing with, and you're able to help other people. I feel like, so again, my number one resource was God. And then I would say my second to God was the community of women who share my story. A good friend of mine from college, a cousin of hers, maybe a month before, or maybe it was a month after, went through the same thing, and she connected us. And she lives in New York, but me and her would just talk sometimes or text. And so I just feel like that community of people, again, like what you have, Erica, the podcast and things like that, will help you kind of kind of move forward and start living like what they say, a new normal, because your life is completely different now. It really is. I would say those were my top sources. Finding a community that shares my story in God.
Awesome. So what encouraging words can you leave the moms that are listening who are, have experienced loss and they're looking to try again?
So I personally would say that go through your healing process first. I feel like I'm almost there, but I'm not completely there. We wanted to try again. He wanted to try again kind of really right after everything happened. But I just believe that you should go through your healing process, kind of allow your time of grieving, which I don't think that a lot of people do. We kind of just try to jump back into life or are doing everything that we used to do before. But allow that healing time for you. Pray. If it's meant for that to be, then it definitely will be. Don't be discouraged to try again. Don't let this stop you from bringing new life into this world. And for me, I'm still going through that process. So I'm trying to figure out what's next, when's the right time. But I think I think you will know when's the right time. Like, you really will know when's the right time to try again. And when you know it's the right time to try again, then you will have that opportunity to do so. But we definitely should go through the healing process first, and the grieving process, and the ups and downs, and those stages of grief that they teach you about before we kind of jump into doing that again. And that's just my personal opinion on it. It's not facts or anything like that. So
awesome. So what's next for you, Geneen? You said that you and your boyfriend are considering trying again.
So we talked about trying again. Things happen in those situations, but right now, really what I'm focused on is for her first birthday, a group of friends of mine surprised me, came down, and we celebrated her birthday. But there's a park here, a children's memorial park, where you can get bricks for your children. And they got me bricks there. And
that's so sweet.
Definitely I don't want anyone to ever forget Madison's name. I don't want to feel awkward in mentioning her name. So I do want to create a foundation. I know I've been on your page, and I know you have the classes to do the foundations for your children, but I definitely want to create a foundation for her. I definitely want to be able to reach other women who have maybe experienced the same thing that we have experienced. And so right now, my first step actually was this podcast to share my story. And my next step is to start a foundation. I want to call it Madison's Mission. I feel like my baby was here for only 5 weeks, but she left major impact on so many people that I didn't even know, people who write me and say, your story, your strength, and all of these things. Like, when I think of Madison, or I see a picture of her, just the way that they think, even with their own children, it's so different. So I definitely want to do something where we kind of give back or help in the infant loss community and things like that. So that's my next step, to kind of get a foundation going in honor of Madison. And
awesome.
I from there. So
awesome. So happy I asked that question, because I was like, I know she has something stirring. So where can we find you on social? Where can we follow you on social media?
So I do have my personal social media, which is all me 247, and I do post. I made it unprivate because I found myself posting more, wanting to post pictures of her and kind of hashtag things to connect to other women. So I want to eventually develop her own Instagram, and I think that's something that I'm going to do soon too. But for right now, it's just all Neen 247, and that's where you can just see pictures of Madison, or just my personal page. It's nothing really related to anything that I'm doing next. But now that this podcast is out, people know.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Geneen, for being on the podcast. I appreciate you for listening and now sharing your story, which has been a blessing. It's going to bless someone for sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And thank you for all you do. Because honestly, again, I'm so happy I found your podcast. I didn't even know Apple had a podcast option. That's how much I didn't listen to podcasts. But now I'm just waiting each week for you to upload something so that I can just listen into different women's stories. So thank you, because it has really helped me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I pray that this show was inspirational and a blessing to you. For show notes, visit ericamcafee.com/podcast. Please join us in our offline discussions in our private Facebook group by going to sistersinloss.com. If you're listening in Apple Podcasts, please rate and subscribe to us and leave us a 5-star review. I pray that you all have a blessed week. Keep the faith, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday.